Hi, everybody. This is 1,700. That's not perfect because there's been so much tampering in Richard's case that that's an estimate, right? That's a roundabout. Um, we think it's probably a bit more, Um, so, Richard, if you don't know, if you're joining for the first time, he is the Fort Bliss um, whistleblower soldier who was murdered for reporting criminal trafficking there on Fort Bliss. That's cartel tied criminal, cartel and military tied criminal trafficking on base. So, and that's been, so this has been developing for almost 5 years. Um, so that's all with hard evidence. Okay. There is no question. Um, there is military cartel tied criminal trafficking on Fort Bliss. Um, it was happening before the Walmart mass shooting. Richard was reporting on it. There was investigations going on, audits going on. Um, and the and you're I don't think you're going to be surprised anymore about who was being investigated and what for. I don't think you're going to be surprised when all of that breaks, because by now you understand that this is really a betrayal at the highest levels, right? A betrayal at the highest levels on taxpayer dime. Don't forget that, on taxpayer dime. So it's so obnoxious. It's so cruel. It's such an act of treason. It's such an act of betrayal. I mean, it's so bad. Richard told us, Mom, it's so bad. It is so bad. And he was right. It is so bad. So let make sure that that we're on. Okay. Turn this down a little bit. Okay, it is so busy because we are in communication every day, getting so much information and putting the pieces together because the last couple days have been huge. And of course, yesterday, and I'm even kind of like everything is running together because of everything that's going on behind the scenes. Um, what has just happened? We just received hard evidence that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe ordered the interference and obstruction of Richard's murder investigation. And we've known that. So it's not like, no, it's not like we're shocked or anything. We've been waiting for this information to corroborate all the other evidence that we already have of him obstructing, because he absolutely interfered and obstruct with Nadal Baim, with Bradford Bugado, with Marlon Soto, with Leilani Hart, with Tavita Nusa, with, I mean, you could go on and on. And we had one comment on Facebook, and I left it up because it just, it's so naive. It's so naive because it says CID would never leak. What are you talking about? We have had years of leaking, even out of Washington, D.C. Years of leaking and leaking and leaking, you know? Um, Absolutely. I mean, even Lieutenant General Donna Martin leaked that they had some plans uh, on the 5th of January uh, to be up to no good because she contacted us to tell us not to go on the 6th of January 2021. She said not to go to the Capitol that day. We were in Virginia. We had the opportunity to go to the Capitol to hand out prayer candles and flyers on the 6th of January. Over 1 million people were there. And she contacted us the day before, leaking that, there was going to be something bad happening, that we shouldn't go. We shouldn't go on the 6th of January. That was her message. Her message was, don't go on the 6th. Why not? And that's why I inferred that something bad was going to happen. So that was absolutely leaking at the highest levels. And, that's been just going on the whole time. And Leilani Hart and former Fort Bliss CID agent Tavita Nusa were officially reported for uh, tampering with the files, and what they were tampering is starting to come out. What they were tampering with is starting to come out now. And yeah, so they are absolutely uh, connected uh, to Richard's murder case. They are prime suspects in Richard's murder case. Richard's platoon leader was Dallas Hart, Leilani Hart's son. And now with this new information, and it's not really, believe it or not, I've had Kyla Cardona's name for a while, and her connection to Leilani Hart. I've had that for a while. Um, and, it's just, there's always been, and if you've watched this case, there has always been so much evidence pouring in every day and every day. It tells you how big this case is. And there was just, it takes time to connect all the dots. And the information coming in is that she was Lieutenant General, well, he was Major General at the time, um, Sean Cardona Bernabe's assistant. So she had absolutely the ear of the Fort Bliss commander, and access, right? Access to him and all what he was doing. And he gave direct orders to interfere and obstruct Richard Halliday's murder investigation, because the motive was, and the reason was, because they could not have another Guillen situation. And what was meant by that was Vanessa Guillen. And Vanessa Guillen, uh, also a soldier, but at then Fort Hood, now it's renamed Fort Cavazos. And she went missing in April of 2020. And her family would not believe the narrative that they were told about her. They tried to really smear her too. And she worked in the arms room, and of course, you have all of this arms trafficking out of our military at taxpayers theft, right? It's stealing from the taxpayer. And anyway, so I don't know exactly everything that she was reporting and what she saw. I know there was sexual harassment. Maybe, go to her family, they could tell you more. But she disappeared, and the family rallied, and they did get permission for Texas EquiSearch to search for Vanessa Guillen. And they got very, very close. They found the Pelican case, which is a trunk a military trunk. I think it's a civilian bought, but the military buys it a lot. It's not military issued, but it's like a trunk, Foot Locker kind of trunk. And they found that mostly burned up. And the CID, the command, asked or demanded that Texas EquiSearch halt their search and leave immediately. Instead of ramping up the search when you find something like that, they halted it. They didn't double up, they didn't put it in turbo force to find Vanessa. They halted the search. And we were told by Texas EquiSearch that they cried. They stood on the bridge over the area of the last place where they were searching and just prayed and cried because they knew that Vanessa Guillen was very close by, and she was very close by. She had been brutally murdered in the arms room on Fort Hood with a hammer, and then her body put in this pelican case and loaded up, taken out to the Leon River. If you know Texas, I know that area because that's where I grew up. I grew up in Temple. I met my husband in Killeen. I taught school in Killeen. Uh, and um, yeah, so her body was burned, dismembered, and burned and put into a foxhole that they then put lime over and concrete and dirt. And that body it was such a sophisticated um, grave. It was such a sophisticated disposal of um, a body, of remains, that Texas EquiSearch, when they heard it all, they've never seen anything like it. And Vanessa Guillen's body remains were never meant to ever be found. Okay. Um, but they were by the grace of God. Um, not because CID was searching or the command was searching um, that they allowed Texas EquiSearch to continue because they were so close. They were so close. No, it was by the grace of God. Animals were digging around the grave, and line workers saw the animals and called it in. And that's how she was found. Um, it's just that happened at I think the last day of June um, in 2020. And so they came out on the 5th of July, 2020, with the announcement that indeed it was positive to be her remains. And it just, how I just cry and cry. And I used to talk about it just about daily. Um, it's just so heartbreaking. Um, and when I talked about it, it's because I didn't think that that happened to Richard. I knew that he had been killed. I knew that um, for many different reasons. But I didn't think that happened to him. And what has happened to his remains is um, you could think that it couldn't get any worse, but it did because uh, they panicked. They panicked and they couldn't believe it that her remains were found and recovered. And so they made sure that Richard's weren't, and they were, dispersed. So he was also dismembered and dispersed. And, that's why the autopsy reports, there's three. that are, always a controversy, always. Um, but of course, we have the declaration of death. We have the declaration that he was found in the line of duty. We have the confirmation from many different sources that some remains were recovered. Okay. Have they given it to us? How do it's kind of like this Enrique Ro- Ramirez. Well, what was his name? I used to talk about him every day, but Enrique Roman Martinez. Enrique Roman Martinez, only his head was recovered, right? Only his head was recovered, and they had to give that to the family. Um, that was also in 2020, and just a lot of really, really, uh, the darkest, evilest cases were going on uh, during 2020, and against whistleblowers. Okay, against whistleblowers, against those that went lockstep. And you know how 2020 was and 2021. Um, and so Richard, of course, was a whistleblower, was reporting, and we have so much evidence of what I'm telling you. So this new evidence um, to confirms that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe um, participated or led the cover up of this horrendous murder of our son, to protect killers, to protect the cartel network, right? Is while he's in our uniform and our stars, and we have given our generals, when you're a general, your benefits are amazing. Okay. Your pay is amazing. Your benefits are amazing. And he just violated everything, everything. And of course, our national security. And, when you look at all the evidence and put it around you like we do here, and you have, and Natasha Paloma could tell you, because when we were in El Paso, staying in a house, she came in, she saw our walls, and they're much more extensive now. But the when you put it all together in a timeline, um, and you look at everything going on, um, it really is jaw dropping, because it is not shocking to us that that Bernabe is a traitor and has is treasonous, because, and this is very, very important, as terrible as it all is with Richard and with Vanessa, because he went over to Fort Cavazos then, right? Um, and all the different cover ups. The target was President Trump. Now, you don't have to accept that. I don't know, but it's the truth. And I know it's hard for people to accept, but the target was President Trump because he's chief law enforcer. And that's what they think of. Okay. That's why they spend a lot of time compromising officials in those positions, or they take over human resources and they will bypass qualified individuals and put in their cronies. You see that with Mario Raskin Ortiz, who's not qualified at all for the medical examiner's position, yet he's getting paid $430 plus $1,000 a year for that, and handled the Walmart victims, and so many, right? Uh, and we know, we have confirmed that that death certificates have been tampered with. So, because death certificates are important to us right now, right? It's a big part of this whole case. But the point is it's just like the criminal law magistrate court there in El Paso, uh, not following the Texas Constitution and not really telling the population that did not know what was going on. I didn't know that in 2015 that court was changed, the boundaries were changed, and it was given full countywide jurisdiction, right? It was given full countywide jurisdiction. And the Texas Constitution mandates that when when a court has that kind of jurisdiction, that the judges on that court must be elected. Well, they're not elected. They're appointed. They're appointed by those that want to uh, control cases. You know, if you have a cartel or you have an illegal migrant or whatever that comes through the court, you can control that case. And that was Patrick Crucius. He was magistrated by Penny Hamilton. Um, and it's a disaster. It's a total disaster. It's really a blessing that that case is done with, because what it reveals is the destruction of the entire criminal justice processing, the criminal justice system in El Paso. And that's what it represents. And the betrayal of all of those that were in those positions, including James Montoya and Jaime Esparza and Bill Hicks um, and Joe Spencer and Felix Valenzuela and Michael Mayella and Judge Guadarrama. And I mean, you can go on and on. It's, and so what happened this last day, showing that a very personal connection between Leilani Hart, who is a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, is connected, a very personal connection with the assistant to the commander of Fort Bliss, Bernabe. And her name's Kyla Cardona, right? And Bernabe's name is Sean Cardona Bernabe. Let that sink in. So there's a huge conflict of interest in this case, and knowing that Bernabe ordered to protect Leilani Hart, who essentially he ordered to protect Leilani Hart so they wouldn't have another Guillen situation. And she was officially reported for tampering with Richard's case. So did she do it under the order of Bernabe? Did CID do it under the order of Bernabe? That's the question. Because she's very connected to Kyla Cardona. And Kyla Cardona is very connected to another close friend of both of them. And that's Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson connects both Leilani Hart and Kyla Cardona in a very, very personal way. And not only that, um, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. But Kyla Cardona's husband, Ismael Cardona Gonzalez, is NCOIC in the JAG office. And part of his job is overseeing those and himself to redact these records. And, um, he has total access to these cases. And did he actively obey Bernabe's order to interfere and obstruct Richard's case? Because there is no doubt that Richard's case was totally interfered with and obstructed. No doubt at all. 100% confirmed CID leaked, interfered, and obstructed. 100%. Anybody that says that there was not leaking, interference, obstruction by the CID, by JAG in this case is just uh, I don't know, just uh, totally hypnotized with those squiggly eyes. Squiggly eyes. Oh, they would never do that. No, very, very naive. Has not looked at the evidence that we have presented for almost 5 years now, over and over again. And what does this mean? That Bernabe has, because this is cartel tied military criminal trafficking involving weapons, ammunition, equipment, children, 10,000 at a time, hundreds of thousands of children trafficked through Fort Bliss, and then all the substance abuses, those that lost loved ones from this abusive substance that was allowed to come through and come on to a military base that we spend, I don't know how much money, millions of dollars to secure, and all we have is a breach of security and letting cartel tied military run roughshod all over our military base, thieving, trafficking, exploiting, just and Bernabe is protecting them. He is enabling them. He is um, violating his duty, his oath, the law of the land, violating the Constitution of the United States in order to protect killers and traffickers and exploiters and just the worst type people, sex cult people, because they the sex cult is huge here because they use that to control people. They will absolutely use that, and they will take pictures, and they will blackmail, and they are just they it's very bad. And if you're a young man, you need to keep yourself clean because they're up to no good. It's not for pleasure. It's business. It's all business with them. There's nothing for pleasure. Okay? It's all business, and it is to exploit, it is to blackmail, it is to silence, it is to damage mentally, it is It's so, oh, they're so bad. They're so bad. And Richard had it right, right? They're so bad. So that's really part of it. And so Sean Bernabe is, you know, going along with it, joining in on it. I mean, what do you call it? Protecting it, the interference and the obstruction of, doing everything except for his duty. He's up to no good. And it's called treason. It's called treason. It's called being a traitor. And the penalty for that, um, and of course, there needs to be a trial or whatever you call it. Um, it's late. What is it? Almost it's 12:30. Tribunal. Uh, yeah, is the death penalty. That you know. So what is going on there makes the Iran Contra. Remember how big that was? I mean, that tells you my age, but it makes that look like child's play. So the connection with Eric Johnson, and I'm going to talk more about that because that is huge. That's huge. And of course, with Ismail being in the JAG office, which is huge because we were, and I'm going to talk about that too, about our experience with trying to get JAG to help us. Uh, very obvious. All of it makes sense now. It all makes sense. There were not there weren't any op ords to find Richard because they knew he, of course, had been killed. That was not the op ords. We know that they were out of a uniform, and it was just so the obstruction, the interference, and it took me a little bit to learn. My husband knew when we got in that truck, we drove away. Oh, he knew. Um, for me, it's been a learning experience because I never imagined that our army leadership could be. I knew that that there was compromise and corruption. I knew, but to be this downright evil and treasonous, and to be such traitors of our beautiful country is it's mind blowing. And they deserve to get penalty, the fullest penalty. So there's more connections here, like with the VA, with CBP, with property, with finances, with investigations into all of that. I mean, it's just there's so much to unpack. So, and we're doing what the media. Oh, and then we did post up our response. We have to respond to Kavia, right? Kavia, um, with this interview with Montoya, and Montoya being, just like the dirt, he's just like dirt, trying to pass on responsibility when you have to understand Montoya's been there for, he was Jaime Esparza's assistant. And, right from the very beginning, he knew that Jaime Esparza's sister was in the Walmart and that he was illegally kept on the case for the cha-ching, for almost 2 years to delay the case. And that was always their point, right? you can see that clearly now. They always wanted to delay the case. They took the jurisdiction, made the backroom deal, gave it to Judge Guadarrama, the federal court, without even telling the duly elected district attorney Yvonne Rosales, who had primary jurisdiction. That was such a sleight of hand that I don't think many El Pasoans understand what they did to Yvonne Rosales on that. Because, the people don't really understand that she had the original jurisdiction. She wanted to bring the case to trial. She wanted to set the date. She just asked a question. I think it was July 2nd or July 1st of 2022, just to set a date. And they just went after her like they're attack dogs that, do. And they berated her in court. Who did that? Joe Spencer did. Go back and look at it, read it. You can see that he just berated her in court for wanting to move the case to a trial date, right? To at least have a trial date so that they could get the pretrial hearings going and get the evidence out and present the evidence. But no, what happened is years and years of milking the taxpayers for millions of dollars for this Patrick Crucius, Patsy, Walmart mass shooting case. And what did Judge Samadrano do? He pled the case in the most ridiculous circus you've ever seen in a court, breaching all decorum, all process, all ethics, to plea deal, to accept a plea deal from Patrick Crucius without any evidence at all and without any competency hearing in a capital murder case where absolutely there was evidence of severe mental health condition, that makes it required by law to have a competency hearing by an independent judge, not Judge Samadrano, but by an independent judge. And they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And Montoya knew all of this every step of the way, every step of the way. But when he won the election recently, and he swore in, because of what was going on with Bill Hicks and being the usurper and not being legitimate, which means you're if you're engaging with Bill Hicks, let's say we're finding information about Richard's case and we want to prosecute her, and we're engaging with Bill Hicks, but Bill Hicks had no authority. So it botches everything, right? It botches everything. We have no prosecutor. Right now, there's no prosecutor in El Paso. For years, there has not been a prosecutor in El Paso. And this is why we focus on it. And so we did do a FOIA for James Montoya's statement of officer and oath of office. And what we found was absolutely appalling. He did not install properly, and when he found out that because someone leaked it, that we FOIA'd his paperwork, he attempted to create, tamper with it, and then voila, you had the 2028, because they did it quick. They just panicked. You have the 2028 timestamp, and there's so many things wrong with that document, that there's so many things wrong, and I did do like a little analysis and I posted it up. But the 2028 stamp is enough. It's enough, because that's way out in the future. And, it's enough to say he tampered with official documents and have hard evidence. That's hard evidence proving that. So he is also illegitimate. He cannot prosecute any case, much less the Patrick Crucius Walmart mass shooting case. And that's why he had to break his promises. He he had to break his promises to seek the death penalty, to bring the case to trial, which he promised during his campaign, but he can't do any of it. He can't prosecute any case because he is not legitimate. And they all know because we made sure that as many people as we could knew that he's not legitimate. And why? Why are we doing that? Because we don't like him or something? No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because we need a prosecutor for our son's case. We need a criminal justice system in El Paso for our son's case to move forward. And, this is, it's like, did they do it on purpose, deliberately, intentionally? And to stall not only the Walmart case, but also Richard's case. So, you know, uh, he was lying in the interview like he's just new to the case or something. No, he's not just new. He's been there, and he was with Michael Mayella Jr., right? He was with Michael G. Mayella, the 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 cyber technician, the cybersecurity technician, the trained hacker in the Walmart cybersecurity, in the FBI, in the DA's office, and the brother-in-law of Patrick Crusius. You know, they they try to hold to this narrative that Patrick Crusius just randomly picked El Paso. That's a bunch of baloney. I don't even know if I believe the whole thing about him driving that long now, knowing his severe mental health condition. But of course, we don't have a competency test by an independent judge to verify. Maybe one day, because he is in the hands of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice now, um, the jails, and that does have oversight of mental health and everything. So maybe he'll get a competency test now or a mental health evaluation. So it is, Montoya needs to go. Um, and I hope that you share this and explain to make your own posts that there's no DA, and he's not legitimate, and so he can botch every case because he's just an imposter right now, right? You had the usurper, now the imposter. um doesn't make him a usurper with the way he came in. Yeah, you be the judge of that. And so that's I'm trying to think of everything. I know that Joe Spencer, who is really, he's just a disgraced criminal now, and I think his time will come. Um, but he's, just mouthing. I mean, everything that comes from him is, mouthy lies and twists, and I shouldn't say lies, because we have all those audios that he was telling it all. He's just mouthy. He's a mob boss, right? He's a mob boss. He thinks he has the right, that he's above the law. That's what to me, Joe Spencer thinks he's just above the law, and he could just, laws are for others, but not for me. Um, and the target from the Walmart case was the chief law enforcement officer, which was the president of the United States, which happened to be President Trump at the time, that was actually doing something. But they put in Sleepy Joe Biden because then they didn't have to fear the chief law enforcement officer because he was always sleeping, right? They could get away with their criminal trafficking. So, you know, they that's how they work. This is a business. This is a business. And that's why you can see a lot of them right now. They try to put on the MAGA hat, they try to become MAGA when they were targeting President Trump. It's kind of like this Chris Cuomo is such a good example of that, right? And there's others where they were just absolutely part of the whole targeting of President Trump, and now they've kind of read the tea leaves, and they're playing a different tune. They're just grifters. They're grifters for these organized crime, um, and what better way uh, to get people to pay for it all is through taxpayer to from an open checkbook, right? From an open checkbook. So I hope that makes sense. It's pretty late again, and I know I need to come on early, but I'm telling you, it is a lot going on behind the scenes. And the only reason why that's happening is because of you, because of the millions of views and all of the shares. That's why it's happening. And we are still absolutely filing. But that is, for legal purposes. That's really for legal purposes to say, look, we've notified you, we've told you all these things. But what moves them, the only thing that moves them, is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. It is the only thing that moves them and that's why they try to take away free speech. It is our speech, what we say, what we think, our sharing, and this is what moves them. And I'm going to tell you that that is the truth. That's what we learned. I did not know that at the very beginning of all of this, but it's why they spend so much money um, funding broken media, right? I mean, the media, how can they make money right now? Their views are so low. Their views are so low. Well, they get funded. They get funded for, just being broken, just being broken media. So, or being attack dogs, right? And that you get the despicable ones, the disgraceful ones like um, Bob Moore, and then that they're either for an attack dog or to just be do nothing, just report very um, generic generic things. So we're doing the job of that the media is not doing. We're giving you, the criminal law magistrate court news is huge. The Mario Raskin Ortiz news is huge. The Mayela Crucius news is huge. The Kayla Cardona Bernabe is huge. The Kayla with Leilani Hart, with Eric Johnson, with Ismael Cardona Gonzalez is huge. There's just so much huge news that we're giving. And it's because that you're watching, because you're liking, because you're sharing that we're making this incredible progress behind the scenes. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye. And thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you so much for your prayers and your love.